Facing challenges and overcoming setbacks is part of doing business. Whether you have the expertise to survive them or not could mean the difference between success or failure. Welcome to We Are Women, featuring revealing conversations that provide invaluable insights into the success secrets of female masterminds. A must listen for every entrepreneurial woman. Now here's your host, Janeen Vosper.
Hi, it's Janeen Vosper here, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Women podcast. Today, I have with me somebody that I've been friends with for many years now. I was trying to think about it, how long ago it was, Madonna, that we met, but I'm saying probably nearly 20 years that we were.
I was thinking at least 15 years.
Yeah, it's. I've been a member of Power Talk for about 18, so that's how long.
Wow.
Yes, and I haven't had Madonna on the podcast before, and she is such a talented, clever lady. Let me read a little bit about Madonna. So since 1995, Madonna Guy has worked extensively as a naturopath, a kinesiologist, and business owner in her own business, Leaf Natural Therapies. My apologies. For over 12 years, Madonna has run several large clinics and enjoyed working with a wide variety of natural health practitioners. Madonna has a YouTube channel with over, listen to this, 15,200 subscribers and over 5 million views. So if you haven't checked it out, you're going to have to go check out New Leaf Health Team, where she discusses health issues, but also runs regular energetic pick-me-up balances to raise our vibration and help us stay grounded. And that's such an important thing at the moment, that we all need to be very, very grounded. This has been more important than ever in the past few years. Her passion has drawn her into many areas of training and expertise on all levels: mental, spiritual, physical, and biochemical. Whatever your health challenge, Madonna will have the solutions for you. For over a decade, Madonna was the regular health-related call-in radio programs on 4BC and Bay FM. Madonna's extensive experience has given her a unique perspective on underlying causes of disease, detoxification methods, and the ability to heal given the opportunity, where general medical doctors have failed. I think this is such an important thing. This is what I really want to be covering in here. We're not going to be paying out on traditional, what we call traditional medicine, but the awareness, hey, Madonna, of what the other part is so important. Madonna Guy has been experienced kinesiology trainer for over 15 years, and as one of her greatest passions in life is it allows others to learn techniques that can help their family and friends heal in a safe, open, and balanced way. The passion Madonna shares in her training allows her students to love kinesiology as much as she does, and as well as being a friend. And I'm one of Madonna's clients, and have been naturopathic and kinesiology, and it makes such a difference. Welcome, Madonna. That's so much information there.
Thank you.
And I love your background with all of your beautiful natural therapies behind. I know I've been keeping myself very, very healthy over the last couple of years by dosing up on natural therapies and vitamins and all the right sort of stuff. So I'm so glad that you could finally get here and we can chat about how people can stay healthy in a different way. So
absolutely.
I want to hear from you though. I know a bit of your story, but obviously the listeners won't. What got you into natural therapies and what you do and why you do it?
Absolutely. So my now 31-year-old son, Blaze, when he was born, I knew I wanted to stay at home until he went to school. So I decided that I would study something. So I was looking at fashion design and accounting. And I know, as you do, fashion design and accounting, left or right hemisphere of the brain, where are we going to go? And funnily enough, it was the prices of both of them that put me off, hilariously, given the amount of money I've spent. But then it was interesting. My mum got a rash from head to toe because we had moved 2,000 kilometres north of her, and I stole her grandchildren away from her. So she got an emotional rash from head to toe, and she went to the doctors and they just wanted to put her on steroids. First answer, of the obvious answer. What else do you do? So my auntie Monica actually sent me a book. It was by Erola, How to Get Well. And I gobbled up that book in 2 days. He was a natural physician, naturopathic doctor. And I went, oh my goodness, it had never occurred to me that there was anything other than mainstream doctors. It had never occurred to me in my life. I was one of those chicks, if I went to the doctor and didn't get antibiotics. I remember being disappointed when I went to get my eyes checked and they didn't give me glasses. There was nothing wrong with my eyes. They were just tired from doing computer work. So I was one of those people. I just grew up totally mainstream. And so to find this whole other world was phenomenal to me. So I rang Mum and I said, don't take the steroids. And she said, what do I do? And I said, I don't know. But there's 3 pages of side effects on the steroids. So I think about 6 weeks later, I found a magazine because I was living up, north of Cairns. And there was I think it was Simply Living magazine. And there was an ad for, become a naturopath. And I'm like, oh, that's that thing that guy was. So I wrote away, and I think the first term was $3,300, which was like 3 times the amount of both the fashion design and the accountant's first thing. And chatted to hubby, he said, do it. So we went, okay then. Anyway.
But that's the difference, and that's just a point for every person when they're thinking about cost of things, Madonna, isn't it? It's as if something lights you up.
Absolutely. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I absolutely know I'm meant to be in this field. Yeah. Because in the same way, I finished my naturopathy. I was at a first aid course. I'm a bit of a smarty pants, so I was in the back row with my sister Carmel, and there was someone asking really intelligent questions in the foreground. It was Linda, actually. So she was in the front row, and Linda's an incredible brain. She could have been a jolly surgeon. She's a dynamo. And I heard her, I didn't know her, but she was sitting in the front row asking really intelligent questions at a first aid course. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that chick sounds like a physio or a massage therapist or something. She knew something. And my sister said, oh, you should go up and introduce yourself. And next thing, we started swapping massages week about. And about 6 weeks later, after like 6 weekly massages, I was massaging her and I went, oh my God, what have you done? Her back felt totally different from the previous month of massages. And she'd had an hour's kinesiology the day before. And I said, what's that? So I think within like 6 weeks, we were both booked into a massage course with Gordon Dixon. So, you never know what's going to like.
A massage course or a kinesiology course?
Oh, no, we've both already done massage.
Yes, so you said massage course.
So kinesiology that we added. Yeah.
And that's how things that are meant to be for you, that's how they flow. They come into your vision, and the universe here, I'm presenting this to you. And
exactly.
Then it's up to you, as you in general, for people to go, thank you very much. That's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Oh, and fully aware, without my hubby's help, it probably wouldn't have happened, because, we were on 22 grand a year at the time. There wasn't a lot of money floating around. So nonetheless, we made it happen. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
I charged $5 for my first nutritional consult. It took 2 hours.
Oh, that's a bargain. Yeah. So it is, and obviously your mum, who was a friend of mine too, Joy. So obviously her rash healed. Did you find something to help heal her rash?
So she knew that it was emotionally based. She knew it, because I'd stolen her kids away from her. So she ended up speaking to a naturopath in Bedezet who gave her some evening primrose oil, and she just had an inkling that it was going to be something like that helped her out, and it did. She had fairly big doses until she saw us. Once she saw us again in 3 months, the rash went away and never came back. and interesting looking back on that, because I hadn't thought about it at the time. But one of the things that I now understand about histamine, for example, you get a rash, you're going to have histamine. So there's a thing called MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, which has only really been diagnosed in Australia.
Can you repeat that? Now, I know there's lots of acronyms and words that you know.
Sorry.
But the listeners are going to go, what did she say? Yeah, so just slow those ones down and explain
it. Yep, so mast cell, they're white blood cells, mast cell activation syndrome, shortened as MCAS.
Okay.
So when I was first aware of MCAS about 10 years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, there was a few doctors at a congress I was at who spoke about it. And most of the naturopaths I know don't do kinesiology. So I was really lucky to be able to come back into the clinic and test people with kinesiology and their immune system to find out if there were high levels of histamine, whether or not the histamine was affecting their gut, their brain, their uterus, their spine, because these are the areas where histamines can build up. So when we are traumatized with our brain, histamine is attracted to the brain to help it to heal.
Right.
So if we don't then release enough of a particular hormone, DAO, diamine oxidase, then it stays in the brain, which causes a localized inflammation, which can then cause anxiety, depression, trauma, stress, so there's a huge connection. And now with our delightful electromagnetic frequency, some people are very sensitive.
Right.
As soon as you have a phone near them, some people get migraines. Some people are literally traumatized by electromagnetic frequencies.
Right.
That is definitely linked in with histamines. So now we're creating this next level of 5G on the planet.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting moving forwards. But histamines is one of the things in the last year I have found that I'm just treating a lot more people for that all the time.
I know a contact of mine, she can't even have a TV in a bedroom or cannot have a single device around her to sleep. Otherwise, she gets extreme migraines. She can use them during the day, but to sleep in her sleeping space, it's very, very extreme. So, yeah.
And some people, and they're the canaries in the coal mine. They're the poor little canaries who really, as soon as something shifts on the planet, they don't cope very well.
Yeah.
I know people who have moved all over Australia trying to find that little pocket of energy where there's less.
Yeah.
It's everywhere, but there are spaces where there's less.
Yeah.
But EMFs and histamines actually attract each other. So where you have high histamine and or high EMFs, they will actually be drawn to each other because the EMFs build up in the body, in the gut, the brain, the testes, and the spine, whereas the histamine is the gut, the brain, the uterus, and the spine. So it's very interesting that the reproductive organs are messed around with. The spine, which can cause fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, any sort of nervous system issues. And of course, the brain, how is our anxiety and depression and trauma these days on the planet?
And yes, and all of that is it's so important. I know I have a regular weekly chiropractic adjustment because the spine is so important to have it as aligned as it possibly can, because it affects the internal organs because of the nervous system, which the nervous system comes from the brain.
Absolutely.
And it's all part of that natural health process to be as healthy as you possibly can naturally, without adding medications which have side effects, and then that medication to fix that side effect has another side effect. You did say EMF. Explain what that is.
So electromagnetic frequencies.
Oh, right. Yes.
So every device we have releases some EMFs. And of course, it's never been studied to find out whether or not these are safe for us. So, they're in China, I think there is 2 persons for every 1 camera. So, they've got that massive track and trace in China. Everything's connected to their money, their finances, their housing loans, their wages, the ability to use public transport, the ability to get in and out of the country. So that's beside the point.
Yeah.
But
that is part of the point, though, with the amount of EMF, the frequency is when you've got that many devices overhead all the time or in your space, it's going to make a difference to people's health.
And they're called smart cities, and Melbourne is a smart city. So I saw a documentary on Melbourne about 18 months ago when COVID really struck, and they were talking about how fantastic these devices are. So in Melbourne City, there are cameras everywhere. And at the time, it was more than 18 months ago, the devices were able to, like, just say we're chatting in the street, from afar, it would come in, find Janeen and Madonna chatting to each other. Oh no, they're 900, they're 900 millimeters away from each other and not 1,500 millimeters. So you and I would be in the high risk category. So therefore, if close contacts, all of a sudden you'd get a text message and say, you were with a close contact, yada, yada,
Wow.
yada.
Yeah.
So they've been doing it in Melbourne for 18 months as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It's a fun time on the planet.
It is. So that affects that with the histamine causes, a lot of effects within the body that we need to be aware of. So, and that other stress levels, I know I work with a lot of women in their own business, and when they're trying to do everything and accomplish everything, and, they might be great massage therapists, but don't ask me about how I do posting on something, but I know I have to do it. There's all of these stress levels built one on top of the other. So I imagine in your practice, you see people coming in with this sense of overload, plus now, we're shut down or we can't work, or that on top of everything as well. It's
absolutely not to be, obviously not to mention the mandates and coercion and that sort of thing. People are doing things that are so against their heart and souls at the moment, just so they can keep a roof over their head. It's the wrongest thing on the planet. And hopefully we'll move on from this. But yeah, it is. I reckon I see maybe 70% women, 30% men.
right.
And I used to see very close to 50-50 going back before COVID, but it's sort of definitely morphed, in the last 2 years, who I'm seeing, who I'm not seeing, which has been interesting.
Got a reasoning behind your thoughts behind that?
I don't know. I don't know whether part of it is that hospitals have been shut down for so long that people aren't finding people in those, because I see a lot of pre-cancer patients, people before, during, after chemo. We know that many hospitals worldwide have been shut down, so they're not actually doing a lot of those scans for people and things because of numbers and staff problems and all sorts of things. So whether or not it's men, it's hard enough to get them to go see a doctor anyway. Maybe they're not finding out things where they used to find out more. I do have a lot of people picking up things for their hubbies where in the past they used to come in for appointments for themselves. So maybe the strong, healthy people are just out there working their tuchuses off. Could be. I'm not quite sure, actually. Yeah. Interesting.
That's interesting. And sorry, I interrupted you with what you were going to say about women in that space that you're seeing.
Yeah, so absolutely. So because it's been such a challenging year as well, with the working from home and having to homeschool as well as keeping their businesses going, and it is amazing how often, and I know that you get this as well, when you ask someone, what are you doing just for you? I reckon that makes people cry more than anything else on the planet, just about, because some people have never been asked. They've never been asked.
I know. And it's one of those questions that when I'm working with people, that's a question I ask them. It's so important to go, and they look at me blankly, and you'd have to say, there's they're in too many other roles, aren't they? Instead of knowing themselves.
Yes. Did you ever read that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway? I'm sure you would have. It was about 25 years ago. Susan Jeffers wrote it. Yeah. And just one of the things that she had, and I know you've got many similar things, but it's about making up a chart of 9 spaces, and then make 9 spots in your life where you want to, so friendships and marriage and work life and fun and friendships and exercise, so you have 9 different things. So if you lose 1 or 2 of them, like lockdown, how many people have lost their entire existences because of all these crazy shenanigans on the planet at the moment, and they don't have other things to fill in those gaps? So depression and suicides, and this is really going to create massive PTSD around the planet.
Yeah, and that is it's a physical response to the energy, to the situation, to the anxiety of
2 years of being told to fear something that is not worth fearing. 2 years, billions of imprints on our brains.
Yeah, and however long that continues, that fear-based stuff as well. I love that. I see that a lot of people now are starting to go, Okay, that seems to be not that big a deal. Let's move on, which is not a topic we'll get into now, but it's really nice to see that energy shifting. And I've been talking to people about this cloud over everything, and hopefully there's enough people starting to shift in that space as well, which is so important. So how can I'll go back to your topic with the different components within your life. That is, and as you said, that's one of my things to make sure that you do, and you have to have that balance. And it doesn't have to be, okay, 10% of the time I do this, 10% I do this, 10%, that adds up to 100%. It might be 50% of your time is work and 30% is looking after kids. But then there is that 20% that needs to be for you. There has to be some allocation. And as the kids get older, that all shifts around. But you have to have that time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you lose one part of your life and everything falls apart.
Yeah.
We have to feel fulfilled. And I was sort of, funnily enough, I was listening to Russell Brand this morning, and he was saying that people get into this space where they believe that only someone else can fulfill them. So it's one of the biggest mistakes in a relationship. You're making me feel this, so therefore I'm depressed. You're making me feel that, so therefore I'm not worthy. And that's the biggest mistake we can make in any area of our life, is blaming our situation on anyone else.
Yeah. And that's something that's not easy to do at the moment when, a government says you can't do this. And especially with your industry and other similar natural industries, there was just one day you're in business and the next day it tells you you can't be in business.
Yes, and exactly.
Yeah. So that's that. And, so you come back to that and go, okay, it's not my fault, but it's different with fault and responsibility.
Yes, exactly. And I was thinking that this morning at our meeting, because there's nothing wrong with setting goals and dreams and not achieving them, especially when it's not our fault. We don't know what the world is going to say we're allowed to do in 3, 6, 9, 12 months. It doesn't mean we can't dream and make plans.
Obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently this has always been the way. We've just really
we could. 2 years ago we thought we could, but on the 8th of March 2020.
Yes, what a concept.
No, we can't.
Yes, exactly.
But that's a really good point, isn't it? To set those, and you know that's part, and the people that listen to these things regularly know that goal setting is a big part of what I do. But it's allowing yourself the capacity to go, you know what, that goal's not achievable now because of an external influence. How do I adjust it, or do I let it go? But being able to release the control around it, I think that helps, doesn't it? It has to help.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things, especially when we've been taught as a child that we must achieve, that we must always be busy, that we must, it's like one of the things Mum said to me when I started my naturopathy, this was pretty funny because she's generally an upbeat person. She said, well, I hope you haven't paid too much money for that. And I said, why? She said, because you've never finished anything in your life. So I don't know whether I finished it just to spite her. But,
what are we, 20 years later?
In a roundabout way, it did sort of kick me in the butt and made me go, right.
Yeah.
But it was something, there's totally something about having something that lights your fire, without a doubt.
I mean, I've only known you as a naturopath and kinesiologist. I didn't know you when you were thinking of doing accounting. I just can't see that. I am so sorry. I cannot see that. Fashion design, absolutely. Accounting, no. But, so I've only known you as this person that's proactive in helping people be the best health that they can possibly be. And it's for me, it's always been so important that people like you are out there doing that. And I'm not sure why the government thought it was necessary that we don't have our naturopaths, kinesiologists, massage therapists, chiropractors, everything that we all need on a daily basis to be healthy and not have to go to the doctor.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's been can I mention the whole history of Big Pharma a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I think
So going back
everything's informative, yeah.
Because just in case people don't know this, 110 years ago, there was a whole bunch of byproducts from the Industrial Revolution in the form of leftover petroleum products. They needed to do something with them. So they started creating drugs. So then the Rockefellers went to a whole bunch of universities in America and said, hey, we'll write your medical programs. We'll pay you $1 million and we'll have a couple of people on the board and you don't have to worry about training your doctors anymore. So from 1910, it was pretty much, that was the aim of making doctors believe that drugs were the only solution for people. So it's been 110 years of indoctrination for doctors. And within 10 years, they started the American Cancer Foundation because of the side effects of the drugs.
Wow.
So there's a huge Rockefeller connection with the medical institutes around, well, particularly in America, but there's similar things. I started hearing about that maybe 5-10 years ago at my congresses where they would say, well, you know, the big pharma companies actually write doctors' courses. And I would think, what do you mean? Like, how is that possible? Like, it just seemed such an odd, it felt wrong to me, you know, I suppose. So it's very interesting that the history of that system is really about changing people's beliefs so that the only solution is medicine. And of course, that's what we've seen in the last 2 years. Yeah. And they have tried to flip everything on its head. And only now, 2 years in, they're starting to say, robust immunity from catching the virus is better than the jibbity jabs. So, and you know, it's sort of like, yeah, hello, we've known that for 20, 30 years. This is not new information.
No, that's quite outstanding or surprising. And, you know, people, I know I've heard you tell me that before and I've gone, what? That's just crazy. No wonder doctors don't necessarily have an alternative way to go. There's some very clever doctors out there that go, you know what, maybe there's some way that we can prevent this from happening rather than treating the symptoms. Yes. And there's some great ones out there. I know mine, I usually go in and tell her what's wrong with me and what I want. And she's
I'd like a scan on this. I think that medication would be good for me, and I'd like a referral to blood.
Yeah. And I needed a script the other day, and my husband needed one. It was an emergency thing. I had to ring up. It was just Stemetel. It wasn't. It was a He had head spins and stuff. Anyway, so I rung and I've got her, and I said, "How come you're working on a Saturday?" And she said, "Oh, all the young ones are just dropping it like flies." It's And I said, "I don't want to come up there. I'm too healthy. Can you send the script to the chemist?"
Nice. Yeah.
And she said, "Absolutely."
And I think this is where, because when you've got I don't have a Bachelor of Science, but I've been around 30 years and I've read so many, you know, science papers, and especially in the last 2 years, I suspect I've probably listened to maybe 1,000 hours of scientists. So it's been a very steep learning curve, because I've never been pro medicine, because I have these amazing human beings every year at congresses I go to who say, this is the drug, these are the side effects. This is what you can do naturally. If you do it along with the drug, you get much better results and people will live for much longer. So, you know, we just have really good, regular, amazing scientists that I've listened to over the years that give you just different perspectives. So I think I've been really lucky in this industry to have had such amazing teachers over the years that allow you to think. And what we're seeing, and I'm sure most people know this, doctors and nurses are being hamstrung in Australia. They are not allowed to give you their truth. They are not allowed to tell you anything other than what the AMA, the Australian Medical Association, or the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Association, want you to know. Those are the rules at the moment. They will lose their licensing.
Correct. And they're funded
Sorry?
And they're funded by?
Yeah, big pharma. Like, it's amazing. And then when you start, it's, the people involved are just, they're the same people everywhere.
Yeah.
It's quite funny.
I know, again, with my doctor, I said, I need a script for this. And she said, I just need to check out how much you need. It was a preventative. And managed to get the script filled. So again, she just wrote the script for me because she knew that was where I'd want to go instead. It was before they fully squashed it.
Well done.
Yeah. But again, it's just being open and informed and paying attention to how you can prevent stuff. And that's what I love about the naturopathy is that you can prevent things. Kinesiology is amazing because it shifts things in the body, but it also helps with you, as you said, what you do to know what will help people the most with what they do. And so
one of the
not everyone's had kinesiology, Madonna. I know when I suggest it to people to go and have a kinesiology and recommend you, they'll go, what is that? And it's funny, the other day I did a muscle testing on somebody just as a recommendation, just the simple one, my name is. And
perfect.
Yeah, and they were, oh, what was that? I said, it's subconscious. So you explain it better than I can.
No, exactly. So basically, if an arm locks, that's just an indication of a yes or a truth. If an arm unlocks, it shows an imbalance. So at the very most basic forms, a lot of people's chiropractors do it actually. They might be working up and down the spine and just checking an indicator muscle to see where something unlocks or to see if there's an emotion blocked in there. So some people have had kinesiology and they don't even know about it.
Right.
I was very lucky that my two biggest courses that I did were NOT, Neural Organizational Technique, and LEAP, the Learning Enhancement Acupressure Program. So the combination of those helps to structurally organize the spine, the neck, the sacrum, the hips, the shoulders, so that people are in alignment, which can, of course, be pulled out with survival stuff. So if you've got a physical scoliosis in your spine, that can be energetically your body being twisted.
Yeah.
Because you're halfway out the door, you're trying to run away. Or if your pelvis is out of whack, your legs, they're halfway out the door. They don't want to be there.
Right.
So so structure follows emotional gear. So when we have neck issues, shoulder issues, back issues, hip issues, knee, feet, is it truly the body or is it the energy behind that that's driving the body to be out? So kinesiology looks at that triangle of physical, biochemical, and emotional.
Yeah.
And really helps to balance that out.
Yeah, and done by testing the muscles because the subconscious knows what's going on better than the conscious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a great thing about it. And that's why you can do distance. So I do distance ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I also do bioenergetic ones. So I do a bunch of weird stuff these days that a few years ago I would never have bothered doing. But we're in a situation on the planet where I thought it was a good idea to start getting those skills honed, and it's working really well. Funnily enough.
And so that combo of checking to see what the body's telling you and then being able to provide the nutrients that it needs is
exactly.
So if somebody's got in general that feeling of stress and heaviness and oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming, everything's happening, what sort of things could they think of taking in a naturopathic form?
Okay, so from a supplement perspective, so overwhelm was huge. There was a 100-year study, through the census in America. So every 10 years they do their census in America. So after 100 years, they had data every 10 years. And a lot of the questions they asked were whether they were feeling happy or sad or satisfied, blah, blah, blah. And basically they were questions about resilience. And what they found over the last 100 years is that people lost about 10% of their resilience every 10 years on average over the population. So we're really losing our resilience as human beings these days, which is interesting. So firstly, there's adaptogenic herbs. So adaptogenic herbs are ones that help us to cope with more stress before we fall apart. So the sort of herbs in there are, say, the ginsengs. So Korean ginseng, Siberian ginseng, withania, which is Indian ginseng. There's herbs such as saffron and rhodiola and oat seed. There's beautiful ones like kava that helps to calm our hyperactive brains and boost our GABA. And so there's all sorts of herbs that are really nourishing for the nervous system, so that our nervous system can cope with more before we fall apart.
Okay, yeah. So
which, funnily enough, is sort of what we need as human beings these days.
Yeah, yeah. And that 10% reduction, I mean, by the time you're 70, you're down to about 30% resilience.
Exactly. So you can, and you sort of think of these grumpy old people, they've just lost their ability to the people with SOL. They've got, they've lost that ability to.
We don't need to explain
the BS.
They
they just don't want to deal with idiots anymore. They just, they sort of just say what they think. They know, no, I've been on this planet long enough. I'm just going to say, but they also start to lose their ability to, because obviously being nice, it's a frontal cortex thing. When we're releasing enough serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine, we tend to feel good and happy and vital and vibrant, and our our vibration is nice and high. When our brain starts to shrink, as it does when we get older, there's particular areas, the hippocampus, the memory centers, so they can shrink to as small as 9% of the full size. They're the memory centers in the brain. So
is that more so affected if someone has Alzheimer's or?
Absolutely.
Dementia? Yeah,
absolutely. So basically, there's several things linked in with it. There's dehydration. So how many people don't? I've
drunk this whole bottle since I've been.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. But sometimes the whole sodium potassium pump isn't working as well because they're mineral deficient. So you can be drinking water till the cows come home. If that pump isn't working, your cells can still be chronically dehydrated. If we are toxic, our cells can be chronically dehydrated because your body will deliberately keep fluid on the outside of your cells. So toxins, like once again, just say you are sleeping in a bedroom next to dirty energy, from our solar panels, the box, it's got dirty energy. It actually releases quite a big frequency that's not great for our nervous systems.
Okay.
If we're sleeping with all of the phones and TVs and iPads in our rooms, it's a lot of electromagnetic energy we're releasing. If we're drinking more coffee and no water, we're dirtying our blood supply. Nothing wrong with coffee, but it's all in balance, of course.
Yeah.
So So I think people's resilience gets lost as they get older. And even then, you sort of wonder about the AMA, the Australian Medical Association. Going back a couple of years ago, they did a study on how much omega-3s we should have in their diet, for example. And what they found was that the level of omega-3s we need in our cell membranes is about 8% for optimal health.
Right.
The average Australian has got 4 to 6% in their cell membranes. Vegans notoriously have about 2%.
Right. Okay.
So because there's just very few essential fatty acids.
Yeah, in plant-based foods.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So with the essential fatty acids, if we're not getting them in there, then the cell membranes aren't going to be, once again, the cell membranes, there's this zeta potential on the cell membrane. Cells are supposed to repel each other with this electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
So if we're not getting enough essential fatty acids, the cells start sticking to each other. They're going to be creating clots in the bloodstream. You're not going to be getting your nutrients out of your cells. Your red blood cells store 80% of the nutrition in your body. So you're going to end up having a deficiency of nearly everything if your cells aren't flowing beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, how do we know that? How do we find that out, whether they are?
So I suppose I do several tests. Well, people can bring in their blood tests as well to naturopaths who'll be able to have a look at them. But there's certainly things in blood tests like CRP, C-reactive protein, that's an inflammatory marker, ESR, which is erythrocyte sedimentation rate, that'll be thick. So there are a few things that are quite obvious, inflammatory markers. I do live blood screening, so I look at people's bloods on a little TV screen, black and white. It's called dark field microscopy, and you can see very quickly where there's liver stress or blood stickiness or immune cell dysfunction or leaky gut, or there's some parasites you can see, so there's all sorts of bits and pieces there. I do an oligo scan, which finds very specific levels of nutrition. so minerals and heavy metals in the body. And because it knows your blood group, it's also determining where those things are affecting different systems of your body.
Okay.
I also do the AO scan bioresonance screening. So that does a full body system scan, so 10 different systems of the body, and it can find hidden infections and weaknesses and emotional gear that are in different systems of the body. I saw political conflict in there the other day in someone. I thought, oh, well, that should be everywhere in mine. I thought, that's a funny one. Yeah. So that one's sort of cool because it does a bioresonance scan that's scanning about 120,000 different frequencies in your body. So, yeah, so there's lots of testing processes that can show if the omegas are too deficient or if our nutrients or heavy metals are high. And, yeah, there's ways of finding that out.
And to be able to, I mean, I think that's the critical thing and why I've always used natural therapies or natural treatments. It's interesting if somebody says something about looking for someone, I'll go, oh, I know a chiropractor in your area. That's what you need. Or I know someone that does, I'm trying to think of the word bionomy, or somebody that does kinesiology or something in there. Because I've been collecting people, for a long time of who can help somebody out with what their problem is at that particular time. And I mean, we need doctors. I mean, they're expert in their field of treatment, but we need to get ourselves healthy and as healthy as we can possibly be. I know one of the things I've always commented on is throughout the last 2 years, I don't think I've heard any politician come out that said, what I want you to do is go out in the sunshine, go and walk a few days a week, at least 20, 30 minutes at a time. Pick up something that you can do some weight training with and build some muscles up on your body. Go and see friends. I hated social distancing. We've been physically distancing, not social distancing. We need to be social with people. Go and communicate and connect with people, and then see how healthy you're feeling after doing all that.
Absolutely. And I think because now it's 2 years in, oh my gosh. And finally, the things that you and I have been saying for 2 years are being found to be true.
Yes.
62% of people would not have ever had a symptom of COVID if they had high levels of vitamin D.
Yeah.
90% of people would have done better had they lost some weight. About 70% of people would have done better with better nutrition in their diet. 60% of our diet in the fast food world, where you have to get double jibby-jabbed in Australia to be allowed to eat fast food. Now, that is funny. So we've got, it's called...
You can drive through takeaway.
So it's basically like this highly purified food that has no nutrition.
Yeah.
So when people are eating this as their sole source of nutrition, it's not nutrition.
No.
And people
it's just
think
calories.
of it as,
it's all it
is.
It's
Calories. Just calories. Absolutely. Yeah. So it never surprises me when I do bloods or AO scanning, bioresonance or kinesiology, and their poor little bodies are struggling.
Yeah.
And sometimes even just getting them to have 2 litres of water a day is a start. Getting them to drink purified water a day is better. If you're drinking straight out of the tap, you're drinking chlorine and fluoride, both of which kill your gut bugs.
Yeah.
So you need to take a probiotic every day if you're drinking tap water. Yeah. Pure and simple.
I know. When I had some tap water this morning, going, oh, that's what it tastes like.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I should have brought my own.
And I went out without my water bottle, and I never go anywhere without 2 water bottles at all. And went out without it this morning, and was out for a few hours actually, and went, I'm so thirsty, and I know people that won't drink for hours, and I'm feeling so dehydrated, not being able to sip water.
Exactly.
Yeah. So looking after. So for the people listening, what we usually do is that there's 3 takeaway points. We've covered a lot of topics, and I'm sure there's lots of really good stuff in there. I know you're based at Manly in Queensland.
That's right.
In Brisbane there, and you do consultations online with people as you need to be doing now. So it doesn't really matter where anyone is, you can have that conversation with. I know it's not your preferred way of doing things. You would much
Definitely not.
you would much rather have people come into the clinic, but it's not the thing that can happen now. But so what are takeaway things can people really put into action for themselves now to go, I want to avoid the bug, or, you know,
Yes.
I want to keep myself as healthy as possible, or if I get it, I want to be as least affected as possible. I know I think I got it a couple of weeks ago. My husband had it, and you know, a lot of disinfectant used, and shoved him off into the other end of the house. And I had a headache for a couple of days, so I wasn't sure. So, but
right,
I know I
which
dosed
is one of
myself.
the big side effects, yeah, because the spike proteins are affecting the vagus nerve, which travels up through several of the cranial nerves. And with the headaches, I think that's the trigeminal nerve that's being affected.
Yeah.
And the trigeminal nerve also causes the Bell's palsy that a lot of people are getting as a side effect of the gibbity jab, and also the tinnitus that can happen either after the infection or after the gibbity jab. So there is, so basically there is very specific mechanisms of neurological damage, and the headaches and migraines are definitely part of that process.
Yeah.
So it means that the spike proteins have got because all of the viruses have got the spike proteins on.
Right.
And the spike protein, they found out, is actually the part of the virus that has caused the long COVID and the damage for the past 18 months, but it's actually in the jab.
Right. So, yeah, okay.
I think at the time they thought it was going to be the inert part of it, but it's accidentally ended up being the part that causes all the damage.
Right. Okay. So fortunately,
So
mine was just a couple of headache, like a couple of days of,
which is fantastic.
Is this a headache from this or not? You know, it was still, didn't affect anything I did. I ran a workshop and did a whole lot of stuff, but yeah.
So there's a few things that we need generally. So N-acetylcysteine is one of the amazing things. So if we're getting lots of mucus, whether or not it's in the lungs or the sinuses, but also the NAC helps to break down the spike proteins.
So what is that again?
N-acetylcysteine. So basically there's lots out there, and there's lots of different products, and it's hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Because once again,
the people listening can't see that you've got that up at the camera, but the ones who are going to watch on YouTube can see what it is on the camera.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So basically there's it's an amino acid, and we need about 1,200 milligrams a day to do some good. We need oodles of vitamin C, and it needs to be an activated or buffered vitamin C. Mm-hmm. So which means that it's non-acidic. So if you take straight ascorbic acid, you'll end up being pro-acidic. You know, so, and that's not what you want when you need this level of vitamin C. So buffered vitamin C, ultra buffered vitamin C, clinical C, there's lots of really good products.
So all the ones that I've been taking is exactly that, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And we need lots of that, at least 4 to 6 grams a day, because once again, a lot of the symptoms people are getting are in their lymphatic system. And the spikes and the viruses travel around the lymphatic system, because every cell in your body has got 4 lymph nodes around it. So when your cells are detoxing, it's going out into your lymph. There is more lymph in the body than there is blood.
Oh,
so
well, that's really interesting, because I always sort of think the lymph nodes are the lymph nodes in certain places, but they're around every cell.
They're around every cell in the body. Yeah. And the other thing is, and we really need to protect our capillaries, because they now know that the spike proteins attack the capillaries, and what is causing long COVID for at least 60% of people is the damage to the capillaries from the spike proteins. So vitamin C helps with protecting our capillaries. Vitamin K, so a vitamin D3 and K2 combination is really good, and taking anywhere, well, you know, depends on our symptoms. As if people are getting cramps and aches and pains and full-on migraines, chances are there's clotting going on. Right. So you can really up those levels of the D3, K2, vitamin C while those symptoms are happening.
Yeah. Okay.
If there's nervous system issues, then activated B vitamins, B6, B9, B12, because for whatever reason, I think it's connected to the heart, but I'm not sure. But I'm seeing in a lot of people who have either had COVID or the gibbity jab that their homocysteine levels are high. And you'll love this as well. Homocysteine is connected in my world, in natural therapies world, to both heart attacks and strokes. So if your homocysteine goes up, then we say you can take vitamin B6, B9, B12, it'll help to bring it down. So of course, You can't patent B6, B9, B12. So medically, they say that homocysteine is not a precursor to heart attacks and strokes until you've had a heart attack and stroke, and then you've got to keep an eye on it.
Wow.
I love it. I just love science. It's so much fun.
Yeah. And being out just to prevent stuff, you know. And I think that's I think one of the big takeaways from people listening. I mean, you can hear when I gave the intro for Madonna, you know, that was a really impressive with the amount of stuff she's done. But after hearing, you know, her speak now, I'm sure you're going, oh my gosh, she just has such a grasp on all of this. And I recognize that, you know what, if I haven't been looking at natural therapies or haven't been looking at preventative, then maybe that's what I need to do. And not just for, you know, COVID or anything, but just to be able to cope with stress. I think that if no
and
other
live our best lives. Absolutely.
Is to look for that. How can I keep myself as healthy as I possibly can, and without having to take. It's really interesting in our house. You know, my husband doesn't listen to these, so it doesn't really matter. It's that he's a family hereditary thing, been on blood pressure medication since his 20s, and been on then aspirin or something for heart, and it takes about 5 different things every day. And I do as well, but mine is vitamin C and magnesium and what's the other one? Everyone's taking at the moment, look younger, nails grow better.
Collagen or something.
Collagen.
Well. I was thinking that'd be good for your hips and back. Yeah.
So taking the collagen, and then, you know, the other thing that you said, the oil, the fish oil, so, you know, that's all mine.
Yes.
So I got very different. I got a bigger container than he has with all my things in it. And and he wasn't well for very well. I'm well for about 4 days, and I think I had a headache. So yeah. And
and look, I think hopefully people understand that this is the best version of the Rona you're going to have the opportunity to get. If there was one we want, this is the one. So a lot of the studies are coming out saying that if you get this one naturally, then you will be immune to most of them. So this is the one you want because it's mild. So, you know, hug your friends. Boost your natural immunity. Yeah.
Oh, no.
And what I'm seeing with my AO scanners, regardless, I am seeing that 90% of people have had it.
Yeah.
Because it's showing up. There's 3 different things showing up in the AO scans. I'm seeing straight coronavirus, SARS coronavirus, and MERS coronavirus. And obviously, we now know that it was all manipulated in the lab in China. And there's a lot of manipulations on the spike protein. So, you know, there's all sorts of fun stuff that show up in the AO scan from that bioresonance perspective.
Yeah.
So, you know, the best we keep our health, that's all we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to encourage people to do exactly that. And people sometimes go, oh, it can be expensive, or they may not have funding. I know some things are covered and some things aren't. I'm fortunate my massage therapist is also an exercise physiologist, so an acupuncturist. Nice. So that's all, you know, there's ways around it, people. But it's important to, you can't get your health back. You know, I think that's probably been my slowest lesson. I've always exercised and always, you know, done most things well. But I think but I've also had high pressure jobs and put a lot of time and effort into work. And my biggest learning over the last 4 years particularly has been your health is your most important asset that you have. Nothing else has priority over your health, because you can't do anything else well unless your body and mind and spirit, the 3 together, is as healthy as it can possibly be, and to have that as a priority. So anything you want to add before we wrap up, Madonna?
Oh, look, if anyone wants to find me, I'm on Facebook, and my New Leaf Natural Therapies Facebook webpage, you know, has got a email list. I'll be starting a podcast soon, so it'll be on Facebook where I share that information. And I'm looking forward to getting into some deep dives with things where I really haven't been able to do that on platforms like YouTube. So it's going to be interesting moving forward into a space where I can, have some good challenging discussions.
And you can join one of the 15,200 subscribers or the 15 million views on YouTube. And I know Madonna's got short videos, long videos, just on a whole lot of different types of treatments and things. It's really good stuff. So, and keep an eye out for that and an ear out for her podcast coming up. So again, you can contact Madonna on health team at newleafnaturaltherapies.com.au. That's a bit of a mouthful, but it's there. And it's Madonna Guy, G-U-Y, if you're looking for her, and New Leaf Natural Therapies for the website and the YouTube channel. And she's got New Leaf tweets as well for her Twitter site, and a Facebook business site, again, is New Leaf Natural Therapies. And you can actually go on her mail list. So if you go look to newleafnaturaltherapies.com.au and join her mailing list, because all of this great information that you receive from Madonna, and she'll be able to let you know when the podcast is all up and running. And it's really important to, keep learning when it comes to this field of looking after you and your health. So, thank you so much for your time today, Madonna. It's been fun. I know we've had lots of discussions on topics and have a lot of agreements on different things, and it's been wonderful. I really do appreciate it.
No, you're absolutely welcome. Thank you for having me.
And that's another episode of the We Are Women podcast. And you can leave a 5-star review if you love what you've heard today. I would really appreciate if you do that, and subscribe so you don't miss out on a single episode. You can also go to my website, janeenvosper.com. You can download a free ebook and you'll jump onto my mail list. I send out a really fun blog, interesting blog once a week. And as well as you can, if you're not sure about anything that's, your health of your business, your own health, I can either help you or I can recommend others who do. So jump on the website and book in a strategy call and chat. And if I can't help you with what you're looking for, I can guarantee I can recommend somebody else who can. Have a fantastic day, fantastic night whenever you're listening to this. And I look forward to you joining me on the next episode of the We Are Women podcast. Bye-bye for now.
So, do you feel stuck in a rut in business? Visit speechperfect.com.au and download Janeen's free ebook to avoid the 5 most common stumbling blocks women face in business. It's jam-packed full of tips to overcome the barriers that could be holding you back from the success that you dream your business will be. We would love you to leave a review of today's episode and share this podcast with other women in need of entrepreneurial inspiration. Subscribe to the next episode now and join the We Are Women community.